I'm Allendale's chief meteorologist Ryan Martin with a look at your midday weather update. Surface analysis right now shows a cool front working its way toward the Illinois-Indiana line. I think this is going to be an area where we really are going to watch for thunderstorms to fire off as we go through the afternoon. This frontal boundary holds back some fairly significant changes in air mass. Ahead of the front, very warm, very humid, high dew points, unstable atmosphere. Behind it, cooler, drier air, although cloud cover will probably keep things from being too much of an immediate switch. But you will notice it. We're going to be seeing thunderstorms work their way from their current position, which is down in the mid-Mississippi Valley, up along the front. Looks like the best hit areas are going to end up being in Indiana and Ohio here this afternoon through the night tonight and into early tomorrow morning. By 9 to 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, the front will be through the entire Corn Belt. Still won't rule out some lingering precipitation thanks to wraparound. We've seen that off and on through the day over parts of Minnesota and even down into parts of Iowa. But I don't think the wraparound is going to be as big of a deal, mostly because I expect the low to lift from its current spot in northern Wisconsin right on up into central to northern Ontario. So I think it's going to be far enough north that even wraparound is not going to be a big deal. After this, we're going to be looking at dry weather for probably the rest of your Thursday and all of Friday, with our next weather system working across the Corn Belt this weekend, Saturday, Sunday. Saturday, it's going to be over the western Corn Belt, Sunday east. I like rainfall totals out of this system still in that 1/2 to 1.5 inch range, and the main reason for that, the low looks pretty powerful still. As a matter of fact, as we see this low come out of the northern plains and the Canadian prairies, it has a slightly farther north track than what we had been seeing about a day and a half to 2 days ago, but the effects are still the same. Heavy thunderstorms initiating as we go through Saturday afternoon in Minnesota and then down into Iowa. And then as we move on through the rest of the weekend through Sunday, the low itself continues to track across Ontario, but the cold front has some fairly significant air mass change. We're going to see temperatures pump up ahead of it and then drop behind. So I'm expecting a nice outbreak of thunderstorms across the rest of the Corn Belt as well, although the best action still will be in the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes. High pressure coming in behind that front looks formidable next week. Most of the week is going to be dry. As a matter of fact, for eastern and southern parts of the Corn Belt, the entire week will be dry. The lone spot that we have to keep an eye out on, Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin as we go from Thursday into Friday of next week. We're seeing a little cluster come together in South Dakota and Nebraska late Wednesday. And then as we go through Thursday, it looks like it wants to shoot east-northeast. So it should bring a nice batch of heavy rain, thunderstorms, into Iowa and southern Minnesota. The European model right now says there could be some 2-inch plus rains. We'll see. But it doesn't move much farther east and south than that. As a matter of fact, the low lifts northeast, so you might see a little bit of moisture, 1/2 to 1 inch over northern quarter to northern third of Illinois. But Indiana gets nothing, Ohio gets nothing, the southern half of Illinois gets nothing, Missouri gets nothing. You get the idea here. There's plenty of time for this track to change, but at its current pace, it's definitely a northwest Corn Belt kind of deal. Longer term, the next front that comes through and hits everybody in the Corn Belt looks like it's going to work through toward the turn of the month. Models are still arguing as to what day. Is it the 31st into the 1st, or is it waiting until the 2nd? At this point, I guess I'm not too concerned about exact timing. I'm more interested in what it brings, and that's where we've seen some stability here. Probably no more than 1/2 inch of rain, coverage about 60, maybe 70%. So it's not a big deal, but the front does actually work through the entire Corn Belt. So it's going to be a different animal than what we see late next week in the upper Midwest. Temperatures are going to be very, very interesting. You can tell there's cooler air coming in behind the front that's working through now. Even though we spike ahead of our next system this weekend, overall the next 5 to 7 days are going to be below normal. Ahead of the system there to turn the month, we are going to see another spike in temperatures, probably going normal to above normal for about 2, maybe 3 days, and then coming back to normal to below normal levels as we go on into early September. So kind of up and down, but more cool days than anything else. You're definitely starting to see that already over the western parts of the Corn Belt today. That's the way your forecast is stacking up. If you've got any questions on the weather, give us a call at Allendale. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin.